Uh-oh. Ah, ah, ah. Uh-oh.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Home and podcast time.
Well, that's right. Binford Tools is proud to present the Home Improvement Podcast. My name is Adam, and if you don't know my co-host Jordan by now, you're not going to know him at all. How you doing, Jordan?
If they don't know me by now, they're not going to know me at all.
We've been doing this for so long. If they don't know you by now, forget about it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's definitely the last opportunity to get to know me. As people know, I'm not really on Twitter, so they can't interact with me there. So unless you want to come to my house, which I suppose you could find, it's going to be hard to get to know me. But it's been a pleasure getting to know you more and more the last 4 years. I'll say that 4.5 years.
And you know, and I felt like we knew each other pretty well prior to that.
Yeah, so who knew?
But this is the end, beautiful friend Jordan. Boy, have we got a show lined up for y'all out there. Man, we're going to be just talking through everything. We're going to leave it all on the table. We are going to get sad, glad. I'm not going to get mad.
No, I don't think
it will be a little rad, though, for sure.
I told my wife today, I said, we've been doing this for longer than it took me to get through college. And I said, I think I learned more through this, too.
Well, you were kind of like a Jim Belushi in college,
you
know?
Oh, yes. They didn't call me the king of Spartan Avenue for nothing.
No, they didn't. I remember them calling you that. Yeah. How are you today, Jordan?
I'm doing...
I mean, obviously, you know, you're probably an emotional wreck, but...
Yes, I am an emotional wreck, but on the whole, life is good. What about you?
Yeah, good. It's real rainy here today.
Been a cloudy week for us, actually.
Yeah, I think it's mirroring kind of how I feel on the inside, all this rain, you know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
you're raining on the inside, huh?
Yeah. Yep. Tears. I think I should probably go to the doctor.
I hope there's no floods.
It's a concern. Yeah, here we are. A lot to go through. Very melancholy.
Do you want to share what we're going to go through?
I mean, there's a ton, yeah. I'll just give a brief overview at the top of the show. I thought we'd start off by talking about the weather, the Lions, inside jokes that only you and I get, fall, our mutual friends.
That would be a good way to make sure that only our true blue listeners stick through it and hear the actual home improvement related stuff.
YouTube videos we made in high school, weddings I didn't get invited to, just kind of stuff like
Crank
that.
calls you made.
Yeah,
fake characters that you came up with that you kind of regret.
Take out the kind of, okay?
Hey, the Fence Emporium stuff still stands.
Hey, you know what? I've spent almost $500 on improv classes, and now this podcast is ending. I don't know. They're going to get a lot of use in the daily 9 to 5. So
it depends. Are you going to keep riding with the other person? Because I'm sure there's an opportunity there.
No, I'm solo now, so now it's just me. Yeah, I know, it's a bummer. All right, so what we're going through today. We're going to talk Backstage Pass, which I don't even know how you would describe that. It's the episode that came after the finale. I don't know.
I'm glad that most people consider the finale the finale. Let's just say that.
Yeah. We got top 5 episodes, bottom 5. We got top 5 guest stars. I compiled a list of good and bad home improvement titles because, there's like 205 episodes, so you got a kind of wide range of both.
It's funny that your list really split half and half. So we're going to go through all 204 titles.
Yep.
Put them.
Well, I'm just going to go number 1, pilot, and you're going to say
good
whether
or
you
bad.
think that's a good title or not. Number 2.
It's going to be a real lightning round.
Yeah. Bizarre moments. I went back and listened to all of our season and summation episodes, so I have some funny things to say about that.
I can't wait to hear that.
We have some short answer questions. We have some tweets. We have some polls. I mean, it's going to be great. And this is the series and summation episode. We're never talking home improvement again unless there's like a reboot or something. But I feel like we should probably say at least one thing. Obviously, very unfortunate. The Zachary Ty Bryan news, awful. No reason to suspect that he didn't do all of those horrible things, and it's very disappointing. And that's all I want to say about it on our celebratory finale episode.
Seems fine to me.
Yep. All right. Anything you want to say, Jordan, before we get going?
No, I'm excited. I think we have kind of a variety of different stuff, whether we're going to be doing the lists, but then you have some really more introspective questions that aren't just going to be about the podcast show, or Home Improvement, I should say, but about the podcast in general. And I think that's its own entity. It's not just all about Home Improvement. It's about Adam and Jordan as well. So.
Well, Home Improvement was a really successful show, and Home and Podcast was a really successful podcast. So, I mean, yeah. Number one podcast on the internet. Not Home Improvement, just podcast.
I mean, at one point, Grimace was supporting us, and Hillary Banks, so need I say more?
Hillary Banks? I don't remember that.
Well, go to thehomeandpodcast.com and click on our Wall of Fame.
Right, okay, yeah. Jordan, I'm going to let you choose what we start with. What do you feeling?
I think let's get the Backstage Pass out of the way here.
Right, okay.
It's going to be very quick. Like, there's no alternative titles here. It's not an episode per se, so...
Wait, I did alternative titles for it.
Shut up. All right, so this is, it must have run the same night as the finale.
It did, yeah. So
we got the 25th, and then they did this right after. I remember parts of this, but... it kind of starts out going through the final taping, and the funny thing that they do throughout until the end is they're using
Wilson's face.
Yes, it's the carrot getting you through the episode.
I swear to God, that's the only reason this exists.
Yeah, because this is unwatchable.
Face.
Really,
yeah.
Otherwise,
okay,
it's a lot of. I expected it to be, not remembering it at all, I expected it to be pretty emotional, but it's just basically
so stupid.
It's sarcastic the whole time.
That's so funny because I only have like a line of notes. I put harmless, maybe a bit dumber than I would have thought, really think it only existed to show Wilson's face.
There's some outtakes in there as well. And really there's not any genuine reactions until at the end when Mark, our Tara Noah Smith, Patricia Richardson, ZTB, they actually like share real emotions about the show ending. So I just wish that was the whole thing. I wish it wasn't like mostly them just making fun of stuff the whole time. But
yeah,
call
it was
me
like
sentimental.
I mean, even if it was like half and half, but it's just like really, it's just kind of like it's like a little bit of a clip show, and then it's also just like these talking head moments where it's like, yeah, Tim sure is a great dancer, and then you just cut to like Tim dancing and then some outtakes. It was I watched it on YouTube and it had the original commercials because like someone had just recorded it from the TV.
Yeah.
So that was probably the best part, was watching these like 1999 commercials.
What commercials were on there?
Well, they kept showing promos for a season finale of Spin City.
Oh.
And it was an episode where Heidi Klum was coming back because apparently Heidi Klum had come before this.
Oh, you don't remember that?
I'm not a huge Spin City fan.
I think we have our next podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, I like it, but do you actually remember her coming on?
I watched that show actually a lot, so I do remember.
All right. Well, they were calling it the Klumageddon because she was coming back, and there was a clip where he was like, Michael J. Fox was like touching her shoulder, and then Connie Britton comes in and she sees it, and apparently they're going to break up because of it. Klumageddon.
Well, there is a lot of love triangles there between all those people. So yeah, I can see how that would explode. Okay, Spin City. We can't go on a tangent here.
I mean, I'm more of a Charlie Sheen Spin City fan. Wait, next podcast, 2.5 Men? Pod and a Half Men?
No,
I
hate
Pod?
that show.
Oh, do you think it's crass and lowbrow?
I want to do Pod City or Spin Pod.
Spin Pod, because you can also talk about like basketball.
Michael J. Pod.
Like, that's pretty good. All Michael J. Fox content. Probably the best idea we've had.
It's not a bad one. All right.
Michael J.
The last thing I wanted to call out before we get to Wilson's face is the final bow that they do. You actually get ZTB and Patricia Richardson crying, and I just kept thinking, it's so weird that Jonathan Taylor Thomas is not here.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's just like a specter that hangs over the last episode. Yeah.
Everything.
Backstage Pass, pretty pointless, but I don't know. Like, it was short and kind of just, like I said, harmless.
I'm really glad that we didn't like include it as its own episode. I'll say that.
Same here, yeah. It would have been kind of hard to build a whole episode around that, so.
Well, we can do anything, but
We are professionals.
we are professional. So, Backstage Pass in the books. Wilson's face, is it as you remembered?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I get that would have hit hard before, like, you could just hop online and just, like, Google him and, like, be guaranteed to find a million photos. But, yeah, he's a handsome guy. I think that maybe is the great irony of the character is that Wilson's got a nice face, and maybe it's a shame it had to hide behind a fence for 10 years. He's also in 3 Men and a Baby, so if you really wanted to see his face, people could have just rented that at any point throughout the run.
That's on Disney Plus, by the way. Just watched it not too long ago.
Okay, is this a hashtag ad?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish Disney Plus would pay me.
I've never seen 3 Men and a Baby.
It's pretty good. You'd like it.
Okay, all right. I'll add it to my list.
And I know you're a Tom Selleck guy.
He's sexy. Yeah,
He sure is.
I'm a big Gutenhead.
It is crazy the people that are in that movie.
Dancing.
Danson's in it as well. Ted Danson, though, he's looking good.
I never watched it because I was afraid of that ghost that's in the background.
You love ghosts. How could you say such a thing?
I love them, but scare me too.
All right. Well, as scary as that is, the Backstage Pass was scary as well. So let's move on to the real meat and potatoes. The one and only
Okay.
series in summation.
Yeah.
Series in summation.
Not season.
Series in summation.
Not a season. We're talking about a series.
Not a game. Not a game.
Yeah. Not the season that I work so hard for every day. Blood, sweat, and tears. A series.
It took us 4.5 years to get to this episode, so let's really dwell on it for a few hours.
I'm gonna enjoy it. Yeah.
So you have top 5, bottom 5 episodes. I didn't put them in order.
Why? I told you to.
I'm just messing with you.
It's a ranking. I think we should start with.
This was surprisingly hard when we get to the top 5, bottom 5 episodes, I'll say.
Is it starting with top 5 episodes? Is that like starting it off with a bang, or is that something we should tease for later?
I think we're teasing that. I think we get to that.
All right, let's start with top 5 guest stars.
I don't know. Is that's going to lead into some stuff for me? But all right, we can do that.
Okay.
Who do you have? I have a couple of ties for 5 on these because I just couldn't bring myself to do only 5 with just
my definition. I have a bunch of honorable mentions as I'm apt to do. But I used the guest stars a little judiciously in terms of how I defined a guest. But
I'm glad we don't have rules.
It's my podcast, and I can do whatever I please.
That's fine. We're going to be loosey-goosey here.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Do you want to go back and forth on this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So
all right, go ahead and start with
the
your number
first
5.
person I have listed because I didn't do the honorable mentions.
Okay,
so
that's fair.
Maybe you should do honorable mentions first.
All right. Honorable mention: Marie, my locket. Elam and Borgnine.
Great.
Patty. Alan Jackson.
Man, Patty just disappeared, didn't she?
I know, she was good. Alan Jackson. Isaiah Thomas.
I have Isaiah Thomas on my list.
Courtney Peldon.
Good.
That's it.
Best girlfriend on the show by far.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I think I said like a while ago, or maybe at the last season in summation. This is our first series in summation. That I thought they should have just like built the show more around her and like made her recurring. I also have really bad ones that I didn't like, but I'll save those until after our list.
Yeah,
so.
I'm interested to hear that.
Okay.
So the first one that I had that, and so far the only crossover is Isaiah Thomas, who obviously played himself. Let's just talk about some of our memories of these as we talk through them.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I just remember being so shocked that they made the joke earlier in the episode, and then he actually showed up at the end of the episode. Like that just seemed out of the realm of possibility.
It was insane. Yeah, that's I'll see you in my dreams, and it's like they're tricking Mark like to write letters. They're tricking Mark to write letters to Isaiah, and one of them includes that Isaiah really likes corn, and then in the end we find out that Isaiah really does like corn. It's a hell of a twist, Jordan. Where did he rank for you?
He's I guess 6. I guess I would say I did 6. So
okay, yeah.
Who's the first entry on your list?
All right, number 5 on my top 5 guest stars list. I had Pete Bilker from K&B Construction.
This is where it gets hard for guest stars for me.
It was hard. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously worthy a mention in this episode.
I just like didn't know where to put some of these people, and it's like, well, they're not like my favorite. It was just hard, and they're in a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
But like fundamentally, I guess they are still guest stars, as opposed to like your one-off guys. And yeah, I just didn't know where else to put them, so I wanted to put them here.
Let's just say they blur the lines. Yeah,
a little bit like Robin Thicke, blurred lines with the K&B boys. I like Pete better than Rock and Dwayne. I enjoy watching him, play those drooms. I was sad when he passed away during our podcast run, and he's just got kind of like a sweet sort of, I say, iconic voice, So.
Yeah, I would say if I were ranking, he would be my favorite as well of the K&B boys, followed by the harmonica guy.
Is that no. Dwayne or is that Rock?
No, that was the one guy from the.
Oh yeah, the guy that was just like
we thought maybe it was a writer.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's my favorite K&B boy. Dwayne. Rock.
I liked him. I liked Rock until he started talking about joining the militia. It's like I got enough of that in 2020. I don't need to hear more about that.
Yeah, that. Perhaps if were it not for that comment, he would have been in a neck and neck race with Dwayne.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think worthy. I ended up picking people who were only on the episode like once or twice, or only on the show once or twice.
And that's perfectly fine. That's fair, Jordan.
I think that's fair either way.
Yep.
I'll talk about my next entry here. Mm-hmm. I think you probably have him just knowing our history, but Rodney Dangerfield as himself.
Yeah, I'll be talking about Rodney a little later on.
So yeah, we have him in the Thanksgiving episode where he just comes on and gives one-liner after one-liner, and they all land. And no, I was just so pleasantly surprised to see him in that episode, and I'm glad because sometimes they bring on these comedians like Drew Carey, and it's like, oh, you didn't really use him that well, and they just kind of let Rodney go, and I was pleased to see it, and I'll always be pleased to see Rodney Dangerfield. And I just mentioned to Andrea the other day that I think on Prime Video they have Back to School and we need to watch it. So.
Gotta watch it. I'm not going to say anything about Rodney until I get to him on my list, but I do have a lot to say. I'll jump to my number 4, and that's Larry Hankin as Larry the Halloween guy, a.k.a. Clifford Warren in I Was a Teenage Tailor.
Mm-hmm.
Is he on your list?
He's not on my list,
okay.
But I will say this is a tough list. There's just a lot of good guest stars.
A lot of heavy hitters. Yep.
That episode, when I was starting to think of top 5 episodes, bottom 5 episodes, or just memorable moments, it was certainly jumbled around in my brain there because it's memorable. His performance is memorable. Good actor. Always delivers.
Yeah, I just really like that guy. Every time he shows up in something, I think the thing is better off. And yeah, he's just like weird and kind of creepy, and that's a really good episode. And yeah, I'd bring a lot of like just Billy Madison and Seinfeld levels and Home Alone. I've always been fond of that guy, and I thought he really delivered in that one, Jordan.
I agree. The next one on my list is Tom Poston, who played Ted, Ned, and the clerk in several episodes. He's at the delivery of Heidi's baby. He's at the airport. That's when we see him the first time, where he's just kind of giving Tim a hard time, and just a memorable performance. I think maybe sometimes not as funny as people think, but there are certainly moments where I just really enjoyed his performance as
I think the problem with that was just like they went to that well too many times, and so now I'm just like I was just kind of sick of it,
You
so when
soured.
I think of it, it's like it's just like too much. But yeah, he did really deliver the first time. It was funny for sure.
They stopped with Bob Vila after 2, but they went Tom Poston 3 times.
Well, you know what? That's a good choice. They should have stopped with Bob Vila before they even started.
-1 Bob Vila.
You and I are really in the home improvement minority with the anti-Bob Vila, but man, I just think that stuff is unwatchable. Almost.
But you know what? We're the experts.
Yeah, I mean, who else has done this? Like I said a while ago, we're Sir Edmund Hillary of home improvement podcasting. I better move on to my number 3, and this is a heck of a cheat. But again, I didn't know where to put this person.
I can't wait to hear this.
I didn't know where to put this person, so I had to put him here. Give me Jason. He's my number 3.
I don't think that's a cheat. Why is that a cheat?
I loved Jason.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you're in 8th grade and there's like a junior in high school that kind of hangs around a little bit, and you want to be him when you grow up. Basically, that's how you and Jason, your relationship is.
Yes, it really is quite a bit like that. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the first time he showed up, I just think that guy is a really good actor, and he's just like funny, and he brought kind of a different sort of energy to Home Improvement. He was better than a lot of the other like peripheral children that they would bring on, or like teenage actors, and like I don't know, he showed up 4 times, which I guess feels like the right amount, but I also wouldn't have minded if he showed up like 20 times, because I just felt like that character had really good chemistry with Brad, and I don't know, he just was he's kind of mixing things up, a little bit of an instigator, and Jared Paul's the actor, and I just really thought, I wish we could have got him on the podcast. I did try to talk to him, but he wasn't having it, and I like that guy in the Seinfeld episode where he drops the big ball of gas with Kramer. What can I say, Jordan?
I think you're mixing, Larry Hankin, Jared Paul. You're kind of pulling their other performances in here.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, hey,
That's all.
Try and tell me that he doesn't deliver. He's got the goods.
He sometimes rubbed me the wrong way, but I think that's a good thing.
You found him irritating?
Sometimes.
Well, I think you were always intimidated by people like that.
I'm a rule follower, and he was bending the rules. So.
That's true.
That's the problem.
I think you're bringing your past experience with Isaiah Thomas winning championships for the Pistons to your ranking. So how about that?
Best small point guard of all time. Anyway.
That's right.
My next one on the list here is Tom Wopat made 2 appearances as Ian.
You loved Wopat.
Beefcake Ian. I don't know. In the same way that Jared Paul mixed it up, Tom Wopat brought a little bit of trouble to Jill's life, and I think it was good for that to happen. And I was glad to see it explored, and I think Tom did a great job. So no, I enjoyed him. I enjoyed his performance. The only beefcake rival to Tim on the show, I think. So.
Yeah, I always sensed you liked Wopat more than me. I thought those episodes were pretty good, pretty interesting. Earlier you said that he kind of brought Big Trouble to the show, and I'm thinking, like, do you think the movie Big Trouble would have been better if it starred Wopat?
Do you need more people in that movie?
Replace Wopat with, I don't know, Dennis Farina or whatever. Probably the same movie.
I think the key to that movie, Big Trouble, is to not make it at all.
or write the book. Sorry, Dave Barry. Yeah, Jordan, you were wild for Wopat. What can you say?
I'm making a T-shirt. Let's say that.
All right, my number. What number was that for you? Because you insist upon never giving numbers with rankings. Was that like a 3 or a 2?
That would be 3.
All right, my number 2 is Christopher McDonald in For Whom the Belch Tolls. Surprising to hear that episode come up in this. In this series,
he may or may not be my number 1 guest star.
All right, well, you can jump in here as well. We've been talking about that episode since we watched it about 4 years ago. I still think it's. Is it one of the best Home Improvement episodes? We'll find out later.
We'll get there.
I really like that episode. I think that he brings just like a sense of professionalism. Like, he just really, really played this like pathetic, aging party guy so well, and that episode really hits, and he's funny, and it's really, really funny, and then all of a sudden you snap your fingers and it's very, very sad. And I like Christopher McDonald, and I always have. But I've never seen him be as good as he was in this episode of Home Improvement, which is strange, but it's the truth. But
it's not an insult by any means.
It's not. I've just never seen him bring this much to a role. And that episode is one that I've never forgot these last 4 years, and I think it will always be an episode that I think a lot about without diving into where it maybe ranks for me. But yeah, I think he's just great. I love that episode.
Yeah, I don't need to say a little, like, very much more, because, like you said, I think we're going to be talking about this episode a little bit more. But yeah, that performance, so memorable, lots of emotion, all sorts of ways, and just, it's just a great performance, enough that, like, we watched the episode over 4 years ago, and it's always kind of been the litmus test for emotional Home Improvement. So, my number 1. So I'm glad we're both kind of in agreement there. And I
also just think it's really hard to like come into a show like Home Improvement that is like so slapsticky, and like it's about like dishwashers blowing up and a guy gluing his head to a table, and like be able to kind of like win over the audience and like convincingly play like kind of desperate and sad, and he was able to do that. So
Also, I think one of the great things about that is we remember a lot of these performances. Like, you were always looking forward to Rodney Dangerfield. You were like, we knew Tom Poston was coming. We knew Chappelle was coming. We knew all these people were coming. I didn't know he was ever on the show, so
Same.
it was quite a surprise as well. And then the performance.
I think that's just a really under the radar episode for whatever reason.
And we're going to shed as much light on it as possible.
That's kind of been our MO since we watched it. It's just talking about it nonstop. My number one is Rodney Dangerfield. I knew he was coming. I had been looking forward to this since we started the podcast, and it was every bit as good as I'd hoped for, and then some. I think that I just really like the episode in general. Thanksgiving Day at the Silverdome. Just
Schmeiman's in there too. So.
Schmeiman's in there. Not as big of a fan of him, but he's all right.
You liked his performance though.
He's pretty good, but he's no Rodney. I just like that episode. It's
an embarrassment of riches. That episode.
It really is. It reminded me of my youth. Thanksgiving Lions. It's part of growing up in Michigan. And they just let Rodney cook. Like, Rodney comes in the episode and he just talks the whole time and never stops delivering jokes, and the plot stops mattering, and then the episode ends and Rodney's done. And it's just it's pure Rodney for 15 minutes. And you don't always get that when you get someone coming on a show you like, and they just kind of step back and let him do what he wanted. So,
you get the feeling too when you're watching it. Like, I just remember PR laughing, and it just seemed like genuinely the cast was just having fun listening to him do his thing. So yeah, that's good. Right. The only one not mentioned for me, then, this would be my number two, is it's a twosome as well. Chappelle and Jim Brewer as Dave and Jim. Trying to remember the episode title, but this is an appearance that was so strong that they made it into another sitcom, basically. So that's obviously a good performance. I think we talked about it at the time as they come on and they're just funny. Dave has some of his early stuff that we're going to see in Chappelle's show, and Jim Brewer holds his own as well. So just a great performance, made me laugh. They're on there. I mean, the episode's really built around those two guys in that episode where they're griping about their girlfriends and whatnot. And memorable, great performances. Just a pleasure. To watch. Just a pleasure to watch.
The episode itself is kind of fine, but it is. I did enjoy seeing them show up. Of course. Let me run through some bad ones, some ones I didn't like, and tell me if you like these people.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I disagree with any of these.
Bauer Sox.
Oh, I went back and forth with Bauer Sox. I think he had good and bad.
Okay. Karen.
Perhaps you were harder on her than me.
Okay. Mastication Kid.
No comment.
Well, if you're not going to say anything bad about anybody, then
that one's pretty obvious. We both did not like that performance.
Heidi's husband.
Scott is a loser.
Antonio the waiter.
It's crazy how much he was on the show. Just crazy.
Those bro authors from a few episodes back. Perhaps fresh in my mind. And last but not least, the Unser with all the DUIs. Hey, stop driving when you're drunk, man.
I mean, fantastic list.
That's all I got. Yeah, I'm sure there were more. Kyle from Whitewater Rafting is pretty bad too. Just popped into my head.
I remember liking Foreman at the time. Didn't make the list, but
he's good.
He's good. Grant Hill was perhaps a struggle.
Jimmy Carter, honorable mention. I forgot to add him.
He was good. Yeah, it's funny. We didn't put the Colonel in here. We didn't put Joe's mom and dad. Are they guest stars? They obviously were very good.
I mean, Pete's probably in more episodes than the Colonel, so I guess he should have been. But yeah, I don't know. At a certain point, it's hard to sort of sift through 200 episodes and just sort of pick things. It does become a little bit arbitrary, I guess. But
sir, someone said a Kurt. How did make your ranking on Jordan go to hell?
We would be remiss if the Colonel did not make an appearance on the series in summation. So.
Thanks for all you guys have done. I'm going back to the grave. See you later.
Going back to the grave. All right. It's good to have a ghost on the episode. Good to have a ghost. All right, where do we go from here, Adam? Are we going to talk about some of the most memorable scenes, or do you want to talk about best and worst home improvement titles?
Let's do best and worst home improvement titles.
I mean, you talk about arbitrary. I think this is where we're going to be.
For sure, yeah. I just made a short, I think I have like 6 or 7 on each. This was just me kind of combing through the list and picking out some bad ones and some good ones. All right. So let me know what you think of these. Bad. He ain't heavy. He's just irresponsible.
Second one I wrote down. Terrible.
Engine and a haircut. 2 fights.
Fights.
That might be the worst one.
I feel like that one grew on me.
Oh, you like it?
Just like Brad's haircut.
Oh, do you have a list of this?
I do, yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll let you share some too. Sorry. Jump in with a couple.
I have He Ain't Heavy, He's Just Irresponsible. I also have, there's a couple that were just like, they didn't try. Like, 5th Anniversary or Al's Video. Like, those aren't titles.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah. How about Shooting 3 to Make Tutu?
I don't understand the reference.
It's
I mean, I get the tutu.
Basketball or the Opera, I guess. But Shooting 3 to Make 2, yeah, it's convoluted. That's why it's in the bad list, right?
You know what else is in the bad list?
Yeah, give me one.
Totally Tool Time.
Yeah, I didn't have that, but it isn't good. How about Back in the Saddle Shoes again? Now, here's the problem. When was the first time they were in the saddle shoes?
Maybe they were referencing when we were going to talk about Back in the Saddle Shoes. And so it was like a really forward-looking episode.
That is, yeah, that's sort of clairvoyant. But yeah, if you're gonna get me Back in the Saddle Shoes again, I better have been familiar with the saddle shoes the first time around. You got any more?
My last one, and I remember not quite understanding which was the kiss and the kiss off, but the kiss and the kiss off.
What does that mean? I got 2 more. Birds of a Feather Flock to Taylor.
I thought you loved that one. I have that on a best list.
What the hell does that mean?
Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Anything that Borgnine and Elam touch is gold.
It's gold. Okay, I didn't even know that was that episode. Last one. You're driving me crazy. You're driving me nuts. That's not a title. That's a sentence. Actually, that's a conversation. All right. Some truly bad ones. Yeah. Let's talk some good ones.
Yeah, I already talked to Birds of Feather. How about this one?
Yeah.
Karate or not, here I come.
Didn't make my list, but I like it when you say it.
Okay.
Obviously, For Whom the Belch Tolls is a good title.
Yes.
You just have to say it. I'll give another one. And as I read this, I'm wondering, is it that good? But it must have seemed good at the time. Satellite on a Hot Tim's Roof. I kind of like it, I guess.
You're a playwright at your own heart, so.
Yes, yeah.
That's probably why. I just wrote every single Halloween and Christmas episode. Like I mean, so we've got Bewitched, we've got Crazy for You, we've got like I'll be what was it, the Blight Before Christmas and stuff like that.
Twas the blight, twas the flight, twas the
night, whatever else. Yeah, I just think they raise their game for every Halloween episode, and they do the same with the titles. So
yeah, let me give you another one.
The Haunting of Taylor House.
That's a good one, but it pales in comparison to Chop Shop Till You Drop.
Oh, that is a good one.
That's a good one.
I wrote a couple of just simple ones that I thought just really, they were short and sweet, but I liked them. The Longest Day.
Yeah, I guess it's apt, sure.
And then I also have The Naked Truth.
Ooh, well, I like that episode.
I know you do, that's why I put it on there.
One thing I forgot to have us do that I wanted, but I forgot to add it to the list was like Home Improvement Hunks and Hotties.
Oh,
you know?
We can do that off the top of our heads, I think.
All right, let's do it after this. I have 2 more. No, I have 3 more. Mo Better Blues, MOW. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not doing it for you.
I just remember...
Groin pains.
Yes, that's good.
And how about The Eve of Construction?
How about it?
I like it.
I would say, in general, they're pretty good.
More good than bad, but when they're bad, they're real bad. A la Engine and a Haircut, 2 fights.
How about our alternative titles? Were there more good than bad?
No. There was also a lot of going to the same well over and over again.
Well, we're only so creative.
That's true. All right. Quick list of home improvement hunks and hotties. All right. Obviously, Wopat Beefcake. Hunk.
Tim.
Hunk. Yeah. Karn. Hunk.
Uh-huh.
For some. Let me jump over to the female side of things. Who?
Two girls.
Obviously, yeah. Heidi, Lisa. What's Ion Tim woman? What's her name? The reporter.
Yeah, reporter woman.
Obviously a hottie. Marty's wife Nancy. Obviously
Yep.
a hottie.
Patty.
Perhaps hottie number one. Patty, definite hottie. Yep.
Other hunk, Sir Larry Houdini.
Yeah, man, that's a total piece of ace. Who else? I mean, PR. Yeah. Hottie.
Jenny McCarthy was on there, right?
Yeah, hottie for sure. Yeah. Irma, Cooking with Irma.
Yep. JTT, hunk.
ZTB hunk. TNS hottie. All right, I think we've got it. We've got our list. That was satisfying.
All right.
There's some definite eye candy. You can't get through the show without a little eye candy, you know?
I would say so. I mean, there's episodes built around the eye candy, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep, for sure. All
right. The other thing that we have is bizarre moments. You want to talk about bizarre moments?
Yeah, sure. All right, so let's just go back and forth on these.
Unexplained mysteries. That's where we're going right here.
I just, for this, I just sort of put things that were just really out of place or seemed strange in the moment, or I guess in some cases.
I know one that's going to be on this list because you texted me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was a dead giveaway. You were not super helpful, but you were kind of helpful.
I gave you the only information that mattered.
That's true. I'm going to start with Jill's, hippie dance and bell-bottom blues.
Man, I remember that. That was a long time ago, but I do remember that.
Yeah, and I think I came down on it pretty hard, but it wasn't very good. And it goes on a really long time, and it's just whoa, 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 whoa. Just kind of looked like she went to Spencer's Gifts and got a hippie costume and was. It was not her best acting throughout the show for me. And it just, like I said, it went on for 3 minutes, which is a long time in Home Improvement.
It's a long time for anybody. I would say, kind of early on, some stuff with PR they were really figuring out who she was. Because I remember there was an early episode, I don't remember what it was, where she was delivering one-liners like she was Dangerfield, but they were not.
Cracking wise the whole time.
Yeah. And just who is this woman? This is not the Jill Taylor I remember.
This is not sustainable either.
so that is sort of related to the hippie stuff. I remember early on the question of, is Wilson Santa?
That was bizarre.
Yeah, as he is in a sleigh and leaving the Taylor house. Yeah, it was the first Christmas episode, I believe.
We came down pretty hard on that, but then we talked to Billy Reback, and he seemed so proud of it, that it was his idea, that I've kind of softened on it.
Well,
you have not.
It's.
I mean, it's dumb, but maybe it's kind of nice.
Okay. All right,
I don't know.
You just love Reback.
I do love Reback.
One of our best interviews, that's why.
He was a great interview, yeah, and you never know what you're going to get in those.
That is for certain. I have another one related to Wilson Santa, just kind of on the what is going on scale. When they launched a grill into space, do you remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah. That was they're in Traverse City, right?
I don't remember where it was. I thought it was almost in the Tool Time parking lot, but maybe it was.
Oh, maybe it was. They might do it twice. Yeah. Hey, it's weird. It's weird. What can I say?
It's weird and spectacular. What's on your list? What's another one on your list?
Wilson's Armageddon basement and Thanks But No Thanks.
First one that came to mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so bizarre, and it was. I was both surprised and not surprised to find out that it was from part of the Armageddon set. It just doesn't fit in the episode at all. It's very weird. I also have the Tim and Al shrinking into the car in Death Begins at 40.
Oh, you loved every second of that.
I don't like that. I mean, it's one thing to tell me Wilson might be Santa Claus, but you're having these guys shrink down. It takes out all the realism. And I'm watching this show for realism.
So, the next one on my list, we already mentioned, but we didn't talk about. Scary Gary in the dream.
Yeah.
Where, Tim's like on the operating table or something, and then like this little kid who was mentioned earlier in the episode pops up and
so weird. It's actually is scary because it's just like so surreal and odd.
It did seem like an actual dream, I guess. So
we don't know what episode that was, right? You didn't know, and I never found out.
I didn't remember to look, but now that I think about it, the kid doesn't.
It was like I remember like his
Tim,
dad like roughed up
yes.
Tim, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's like a steamroller or whatever problem, and Tim runs over a trike or something. So.
Hey man, keep your trikes out of Tim's way. That's all I'm saying. Jimmy Carter showing up on Eve of Construction was bizarre. I mean, we didn't get a lot of presidents in Home Improvement. In fact, he was the only one, so it was pretty surprising to me.
Didn't get a lot of presidents. Well, there was that one episode with George Washington where he showed up. That was pretty confusing.
That's true. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Trump didn't like show up in an episode because he was doing a lot of that in the 90s. Basically, if you called him and asked him to be in something, he would have done it.
Well,
I'm glad he wasn't in this.
Yeah, tangentially related, there was that trivia that we found out where Hillary Clinton was going to be on an episode at one point, but didn't happen.
Yeah,
so
that would have hell dog.
I have the last one here listed as when Heidi lands a big old smooch on Al.
Yeah. Did you see the blooper in Backstage Pass where she's wearing like Billy Bob teeth?
It was really scary.
That was the only. That was the only part of the. I thought that was kind of funny. I guess, in terms of like a blooper.
Not my favorite. Not my favorite moment, but
not my tempo.
But yeah, I just remember at the time when we were watching that, it was like, what is happening here?
That episode is not so hot. All right, I have two more. Isaiah Thomas, Korn, and I'll See You in My Dreams. We talked about that earlier, but I was just so shocked that he showed up, and I mean, it's bizarre in a good way. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, bizarre doesn't always have to be bad.
No. And then lastly, this one isn't so much seen as it is implied. So Marty's implied hiding outside of the bar scene.
We're going to talk about that.
He's just irresponsible. We'll table that because it might come up later.
It's going to come up later.
All right.
Definitely worthy of inclusion.
That's all I got, Jordan.
Good. That's all I got as well. Bizarre moments aplenty on the show.
We could have come up with 10 more each probably, but yeah. Let's jump into some questions.
Are we saving top 5, bottom 5 for the very end?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. I'm ready for questions.
All right, let's do some.
I'll let you be kind of the moderator here because this is your baby.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for that.
$500 of improv.
This is why people come to Home and Podcast.
Jordan, questions from me to you. General discussion. Do you like Home Improvement more, less, or as much as you did when you started the podcast?
Yeah, this was an easy answer for me. I feel like I definitely like it more. For a lot of reasons. Lots of memories made with you, of course, but I appreciate a lot more of, when we were younger, like we probably didn't care so much about who was on the show or if they were having good performances or did we feel emotions or all these kind of things. So I think there was emotional components that I really appreciated that I didn't as when I was younger, more life experience as a father, so you see some of that stuff reflected here. Tim's acting ability I appreciated much more, and just the show and the depth that it goes into, that it's not often given credit for, I appreciated. So definitely more, there were some things that didn't age well as we watched it, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about those later, but I think on the whole it was we watched it and we were like, yeah, the show deserves more respect, just like Rodney Dangerfield.
Hey,
I'm assuming you answered these as well, right?
No, these are just for you, and I'm going to tell you if you're right or wrong.
Okay, it's true.
Yes, I like it more as well. I feel like I feel more protective of it now. Like even though it's kind of stupid, I do feel sort of protective of it. When I hear someone mention it or it comes up in conversation, my ears kind of perk up. when I pass by it on Laugh TV, which it seemingly is always on Laugh TV, I think that's the only thing they show, I always kind of get sentimental, and I think about, when we recorded or whatever. I loved it when I was young, and I didn't really think about it for about 20 years, basically from when it ended to when we started the podcast, and then I watched it again, and now I love it again, and it's maybe not perfect, but it definitely won me over throughout the run. I think I came in kind of skeptical and thinking like, yeah, are we ever going to be able to get through this? Like, these are rough. But yeah, like you said, I think the acting and just sort of the earnestness, if that's a word, of the show and its ability to sort of blend the humor with the heartfelt. Just little by little, it won you over. It's just a really good family sitcom. So yeah, I do like it more.
Humor and heartfelt.
Well, I actually stole that from an answer later on. So.
Well, it's your answer, one way or another. So
let's jump into the next one.
Okay.
What's one thing about Home Improvement you don't think enough people talk about or realize?
I can
go first if you want.
Yeah, I wrote down a couple. I'd love to hear yours first, though.
Well, Jordan, my answer was how well it blends humor with the heartfelt.
Yes, I wrote something to that effect as well. But...
I think that's probably the show's greatest strength is its ability to sort of actually, like, a lot of shows can be funny. Most sitcoms are funny, at least in small doses. Like, it can give you a laugh line, but Home Improvement is able to make you feel for the characters, and when they're in tough situations or when things are difficult, you are able to really empathize and kind of feel those moments, like the cancer scare, Jill's hysterectomy, or when Tim is sort of struggling with his masculinity or losing his father. Like, you really feel for him, and a lot of it is the writing, a lot of it's the acting, but yeah, it's really able to sort of toe that line well. And then I also just like the fact that it's a really good family sitcom, built around a family. A lot of shows like purport to be family sitcoms, but Home Improvement does its best for the most part, minus TNS, to carve out plot lines, scenes and episodes for each member, and you're able to get to know them and sort of see them experience different things throughout the world. Last thing is that, and this is a big diatribe I went on a while back, but how it's aged better than I think a lot of people maybe perceive. A lot of it's tied up in like the masculinity and the caveman stuff and Tim grunting, and that is a big part of the show, but the family dynamics and Jill being the commissar of the feminist party.
The subtext to all those episodes are the exact opposite of that. So.
Right. All you have to do is watch the show to see that he's a buffoon and no one's taking it seriously. And I continue to say that it hasn't aged any worse than any 90s sitcom. When you're watching these shows, you're always going to have like kind of moments where you cringe, whether it be like transphobia or homophobia or just like lame bullshit of the era. But like Home Improvement doesn't have any more of that than a lot of other shows. So those are a few things I think people need to talk more about, Jordan.
Yeah, I have a lot of that here. And I'm not going to belabor the points that you did. I was thinking as you were talking, it would have been interesting to say, like, what was the best episode for each character? You know what I mean? I thought that
would have been good.
Maybe we can kind of riff on that a little bit later.
Sure.
But, I wrote a lot about the emotional stuff that you mentioned. Again, I mentioned that Tim is a much better actor than I realized. But then I also mentioned something we've talked about before is this family show has a lot more sexual moments than I ever remembered.
That's true, yeah.
Sexiest sitcom of all time, I think I put it. So
it's true, and you've watched them all.
I watched every single one. I mean, we've talked about all these moments. We have a YouTube video listing all these moments, but
oh man, it's got so many views.
So many views. We've got the Eye on Tim. We've got the Naked Truth.
Horny dudes somewhere, or women.
So yeah, I think those are all things that you just don't remember about the show. I think the things that people remember are the grunting and stuff, and it's just like that's honestly when I watch it, that's such a little part of the show to me.
Also, I mean, I don't know if you noticed this, but the grunting kind of tapered off.
Yes, the grunting stopped.
Yeah, and I wonder why. In the beginning, it's very grunt heavy, and I know it's built around his stand-up, so like, it was built around the grunting. But like by the final season, like Not much grunting.
There's no time for grunts anymore.
There's no time for grunts. We have so many plot lines we need to try to tie a bow on.
The next thing that you wrote is, what is Home Improvement's greatest strength or shortcomings?
Yeah, I can...
We've touched on some of this a little bit before, but...
Yeah, I'll start with shortcomings. I just kind of have a list here. Shortcomings, I think it repeated itself a bit too much sometimes. I think we went to certain wells multiple times. Specific examples would be like Tim and Jill deciding whether or not they want to have more kids. Like that, they did that like a couple different times, and like I don't know. That's something you can do once, but after you've seen characters kind of change their mind, it's just not that effective. And that kind of bleeds into my next point, where sometimes the show refused to stick to character traits or like betrayed character personalities for the sake of plot lines, where it's like, well, I don't believe this person would do that, but like because the episode needed them to do that, like Tim, like the Tim landlord one, or like I don't know, just like or like PR had episodes where it would be like, I don't believe that she would actually act like this, but like the episode needs her to, and then by the next week they're back to their normal selves.
It was a full moon that week.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I would also say like didn't develop secondary characters enough. People like Al. I feel like Al didn't get as much play as I remembered. Like Al honestly like isn't that well developed of a character. But like more peripheral characters like Bud, Marie, Patty, Harry, Jason. Like I just feel like we could have maybe got more development with those characters, and then when they showed up in episodes, it probably would have mattered more to us. Also, too many hot rods. I felt like just like at a certain
not enough garages for all those hot rods.
I know. I don't know. I couldn't even keep the hot rods straight by the end. Like, I don't know, too many hot rods. Let's just enough of the hot rods already. Too much time with Jill in college as well. That just went on way too long. It really lost its meaning. It was just sort of absurd the amount of time she spent sitting at a table doing schoolwork. So that's my list.
That's a good list of shortcomings. I have a couple to add to that. You talked about not developing, tertiary characters. Maybe they never really figured out what to do with Mark either. And maybe that's as he was maybe the weakest of the actors of the main cast or whatever. But when they tried to build something around him, it was really weird or emo or whatever.
They just wouldn't stick to it.
It just was never really good. So they just
like
never really
cooking.
figured it out. What?
Like his cooking.
Yeah, the cooking.
Weird.
That was maybe the best plot line for Mark, was cooking.
Yeah. Mark a la mode.
I wrote also about like the same tropes over and over again. But the other thing that I remember being a bigger deal than what was presented on the show when I rewatched it was the man's bathroom, the man's kitchen, the man's whatever. It was just never as impressive as I remember it being.
No, I know. They stopped doing that too.
Yes, but they were like, "Oh, we put a toilet seat in this lounger."
It's basically like we automated your toilet. Oh, you don't have to. You push a button, the seat pops up, and there's a TV. Cool.
Yeah, so that was definitely a shortcoming for me as well. But
any more?
That's it.
All right, strengths. I felt like they really handled the maturation of the kids well, and just like the aging of the characters. They were able to sort of feel like when you watch the show, you felt like you were maybe like really growing with a family, and their ability to sort of write episodes around these sort of like sentimental teenage moments, or like people turning 40, or Jill having a hysterectomy, or all these things. Like it felt like you were actually watching a family sort of grow. And I think a lot of sitcoms like sort of just remain stationary, like they're just sort of doing the same things over and over again. But like the episodes they did in year 5 of Home Improvement were so much different than what they did in year 1. And like the same was true with like year 8. Like, you got Brad going to college, soccer scholarship, and you got like, I don't know, just
finding weed.
Yeah, just like those. I just really appreciated how they were able to sort of continually evolve and sort of, just as the kids grew, they were able to sort of figure out different plot lines, and same with Tim and Jill and all the other sort of peripheral characters. Other strength, I think they softened Tim, sort of. They made him more likable, I felt like, as the show went on. And I just think Wilson was sort of handled well throughout. I was always impressed by their ability to make him to come up with like new, somewhat interesting things for him to say at the fence, because I'm sure that wasn't easy. And while they weren't always, slam dunks, like I don't know.
Sometimes the Wilsometer was pretty cold.
It's true, but like, man, to have to write 200 conversations like that, pretty difficult. So
yeah, that is impressive.
That's all I got.
I had a lot of the same things you said. I talked about the compelling relationships between Tim, Jill, and Wilson specifically, and just the heartfelt moments that we've mentioned earlier. And then I also mentioned that the boys, especially for me when they're younger, like they're just very compelling. I really liked when the kids were younger, and I thought those plot lines of like, whether it be like Randy as Peter Pan or Mark with his dad and the Boy Scouts and stuff like that. Like those were just really great growing up moments. And Brad and Randy really turn out to be great for their roles. They work out really well as far as what they grow into, and so yeah, those are definitely big strengths for me.
All right, Jordan, let's skip around a little bit. Let's leave the questions for a little bit, and let's. We got some feedback from our listeners, some tweets. So I'm going to share some of those, if that's all right.
I would love to hear from our listeners.
All right, so I'm going to start with Griffin Holloway at Grifster04. He said, "I need to hear Jordan's old man voice one more time." But
you're doing it.
Well, but thoroughly enjoyed this podcast. You guys make my driving 2,000 miles a month bearable. So,
man, what's he driving so much for?
A job, I guess. I don't know. Well, we make it bearable, Jordan.
Well, Grifster.
Give him a little more grandpa, okay? Come on.
Well, Grifster, I'm so glad that you like my grandpa
That's
voice.
enough. That's enough.
I'd be happy to make a ringtone for you, Grifster.
That was among the most shocking things I saw. At Anthony Hefner 4, is Tim Allen and Richard Karn really coming on the podcast? If so, please talk about Richard's time on Family Feud. Yeah, I never mentioned this, but this was a weird thing that happened about a month ago, where I retweeted a picture of Tim Allen and Richard Karn, and I said, "Can't believe you're coming on the pod," and then we got 200 followers that night, and that tweet got 300 likes, and I was just kidding. They're not coming on the podcast. I wish they would, but it was just sort of like a way to
write to them every day.
Yeah, if you want them on, it just didn't happen, unfortunately. I'm sorry, Anthony, but if they were coming on the pod, I would ask Richard about Family Feud for sure. So
that would be like a 3-hour interview we'd have to figure out.
I know, that'd be tough. All right, S. Lunas. I'm behind on episodes of the show and the pod, but I'll eventually listen to all of them. And if you do any more podcasting after this, count me in as a listener.
Oh, that's just so sweet. We've got the most loyal and best fans, and it's amazing that people want to hear the stupid crap that comes out of our mouth. So
I know. I'm mostly always just amazed at the stupid crap that comes out of your mouth.
Hey.
Frankly. Booyah!
Burn.
Keyshawn Mom said, "Can't believe you guys are almost done. That means I'll have to start listening to grunt work." Ugh, LOL.
Just go ahead and start from the beginning of our podcast. I know our audio's terrible for the first 10, 12 episodes, but it's, nothing's worth grunt work.
It's not grunt work. I mean, I don't even think grunt work. I don't even know if they're still doing it. It's hard to finish a home improvement podcast. Many have tried and failed. I'll say that much. But if you want to listen to Gruntworks 2.5-hour home improvement episodic coverage episodes, then by all means. But I don't know. Life's short. I wouldn't do it if I were you. Your brother reached out to us this morning.
Family affair.
At JL Audio. Any chance of Tim and Richard doing a podcast about the Homan podcast?
Well,
Meta? Question mark.
What would a podcast about our podcast be about?
Well, you remember when Serial was popular and podcasts were doing episodes about Serial?
Oh, the one that we did?
We didn't do a podcast about it, did we?
We did a blog post.
Okay. Yeah, but there was a lot of podcasts about that podcast.
Yeah.
So
it would be funny to think of the evolution. We have a view a little bit, but it's hard to remember some of the old stuff. We remember that you came in pretty academic, right? Sure. And I basically couldn't speak on a microphone without messing up every single word.
Yeah, that's definitely changed.
definitely changed. I can speak a little bit, not a lot, but
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to kind of. We don't really know. It's not like we listen to all of our episodes necessarily, besides editing or whatever. So it would be interesting to see how we have evolved throughout the show.
I mean, I think it could happen, though. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably don't have anything better to do.
I think it could happen. All right. At Lynn White 976 said, I think it'd be fun to talk about takeaways throughout all episodes that would be likely to show up in a reunion show, i.e. what fans would like to see. Of course, the reunion would have to include blank, or it would be so fun to see blank, unless you've already done this.
I mean, not really, but I will say that the reboot script, if you have not read it on our website, thehohenpodcast.com, that you wrote, does have quite a bit of, I guess you could call it fan service where they do have some of the, things that you would like to see again. You'd like to see the boys. You'd like to see what they're doing. You'd like to see Tim and Al back together doing something. You'd like to see how they cope with Wilson's loss. Obviously he wouldn't be there. So there's a lot of good things in that. But I mean, is there anything that you can think of specifically that you'd like to see?
In terms of change, so I wrote that from the position of them actually going to Indiana, which we now. There's some debate as to whether or not that happened.
Are we going to get to that?
We'll get to that later in terms of the audience poll. So that may or may not change depending on how I felt. I think it makes for a more interesting pilot if they are coming back from Indiana, just because it gives the characters kind of motivations and would sort of prompt some change. But beyond that, I mean, if you brought the show back, I think I think Tool Time would probably have to be a web series or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I can't think of much that I didn't address in that reboot script, to be honest. Mm-hmm. We did get another question about that at Danny J. Just said more talk about the reboot script you wrote. In terms of that, I'll just say go to homeandpodcast.com. Thehomeandpodcast.com, because we got our domain stolen 4 years ago.
I don't think anybody has it now, and we're not buying it now.
We're never changing. Yeah, it's there. Read it if you want.
It's right on the homepage.
Yeah,
I think big yellow button.
Quite a few people have downloaded it at this point, which is cool. But yeah, I guess that's kind of what I envisioned, or what I would have liked to have seen in terms of a reboot. Is it perfect? No, but I haven't seen any other reboot scripts out there. So
is it perfect? Ask Carmen Finestra.
That was so funny. Oh my god! I sent you what he sent me, right?
I think so. Yeah.
That was wild. It was
It's cool that he took that much time. I'll say that.
It is cool. It didn't bother me. I'm not thin-skinned when it comes to that stuff, but it was really funny because it was just, you could tell it was a guy who was really protective of something that he created, which he has every right to be being yeah, no, I don't think JTT would do that. It was him disagreeing with character motivations, which is just kind of funny. But
yeah, well, that's exactly how we're going to feel about this podcast. If anybody attacks it, we're going to feel very protective. So
yeah, they better not.
Definitely can empathize there. But yeah, reboot scripts, it's all there on the website. There was a time where right when we had Karn on, it was such a big topic of conversation, and we asked everybody about it, and everybody kind of seemed game, but. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So
I would say, even with the ZTB news of late, makes it even less likely. To be honest.
Agreed.
Yeah. So
agreed.
Kirsten, my girlfriend, came in with a sheet of paper and she set it down on the desk about 10 minutes ago, and it says my questions. So she kind of brought it in off the ticker here.
That's a priority. She brings it into the room, access to the hosts.
She said. I did say earlier, I was it's our last episode today, so if you have any questions you want to ask, you better get them in now. And she was and I could tell she was okay, yeah, I'll probably not do that. But she did.
My wife said she was feeling anxious and she didn't know why, and then she thought maybe it's because it's your last podcast. She feels anxious for us. So.
All right, we can just kind of run through these. She wants to know, what's next?
Man, the question of the hour,
isn't it? $1 million question. Nothing that I know of. The only thing I'll say that could happen is...
If you bring up that one idea that you texted me, I'm not doing it.
Which one?
Was it
Pacino and De Niro and Pacino?
Yeah.
That's my favorite idea. That and Michael J. podcast.
Michael J. Pod.
Michael J. Potter are the two best ideas. No, the only thing I could say that could possibly happen is, we got a Santa Claus movie out there that we didn't talk about. And
It's got Morton Short in it as well.
And Christmas is right around the corner. So it wouldn't shock me if, a home podcast Christmas episode popped up around your feeds December 25th. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but that's about all I can say right now.
All I can tell you, Adam, is that I have about 12 days off in December, so...
Okay. All right. So perhaps the stars are aligning for that. Beyond that, I have no plans. We don't have any plans for this feed.
We have earned a nice sabbatical at the very least.
Right. Yep.
And maybe something will come into our head. I'm trying to think of the ideas that people have said to us throughout the podcast.
They're all bad.
They weren't all bad. It was just like The Office or...
It's not bad. It's just like not things I want to do. And at this point, it is very saturated. It's weird to say this, but like podcasts are so much more popular, and there are so many more podcasts now than when we started in 2016. I thought we were getting to the podcast game late, and there's still new podcasts popping up. So I think the biggest thing for us is that
we both have very different interests, so it's amazing we finally found one together that we could do for 4.5 years. But I also think that, how do I phrase this?
I also think that
I kind of lost my train of thought a little bit there.
I hate you. I think also I don't want to talk to you again.
No, I mean, we're going to talk about the things that we're going to miss about this podcast the most, so we'll get to that. But
all right. Well, I have another question.
Yeah, let's hear the next question.
Any regrets?
My biggest regret is that the first 10, 15 episodes do not sound good, because I mean, how many people clicked on that?
Bowed out.
Yeah, they clicked on the pilot and they're like, wow, you sound like garbage. And then we even tried to go back and re-record the pilot just to have a good first episode after 2 or 3 years. We had audio issues, so it was just like not meant to be.
It's cursed, yeah.
So part of it's like, it's authentic. We grew into the podcast a little bit, but you would have liked. If we did another one, we would have 2 to 3 in the can. We would have, they would sound good from the beginning, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. Regrets? No, I wish we could have gotten more cast members on. I mean, I always.
You worked very hard on that.
I tried, yeah. I dreamed of getting Tim Allen on. To be honest, was never really that close. But yeah, to get Tim or to get JTT. We're close to ZTB for a time, but yeah, JTT or Tim, those would have been really great. And I worked super hard at it, but the stars just weren't aligned on that. So I don't think there was anything else I could have done to get them there without like having a connection, which just didn't really have. So I'm pleased with the people we could get, and I think that did help raise our profile. Whatever that might mean for a home improvement podcast, but those episodes did get us more listeners. So yeah, that would be one. Next question: favorite home improvement episode? We'll talk about that later. Favorite show moment? Does that mean our show? I'm gonna skip that one. Last question: do you and Jordan still like each other? $1 million question.
You want to go first, Adam?
Yeah, I'll say no.
That's the real reason the podcast is ending.
I stopped liking Jordan about 6 months in, so it's been really a tough. No,
you know what I think is really crazy? I mean, this is kind of a side note, but there's a couple of subreddits that I am in for podcasting, and there are always people asking like, "Hey, who wants to do a podcast with me about
Oh man!"
And I'm like, man. To do like 200 episodes with a stranger about whatever, I'm very thankful that I have a friend like you, that we've always kind of had this relationship of just very much the same sense of humor.
Yeah.
You've always got my funny bone, and we've always kind of enjoyed doing this kind of stuff together.
Yeah,
and
we like
so
to be silly.
It definitely made doing it for 4.5 years a pleasure. So I would say I like you even more.
Jordan, I like you and I love you.
Oh, what a moment on the podcast right now.
And that's it from my girlfriend Kirsten. So thanks for those questions. She said she's going to listen to this one, so we'll see.
Finally. She used to be the only one who comments, and then she just said, "You know what? You don't need me anymore."
The funny thing is today she was like, "Well," I was like, "Yeah, you should listen. That you haven't listened in a couple of years." And she's like, "Well, you remember why I stopped listening, right?" And I was like, "No." I said, "Why did you stop listening?" She said, "I actually don't remember either." But apparently, there must have been some kind of a fight about it at some point. But neither one of us remembers what it was. So
I do remember at one time my wife feeling bad. She's like, "I don't feel like I listen to your hobbies. You know, I feel like I'm a bad wife." I'm like, "Don't worry about it. This is not.
Yeah.
This is not one of those things." So,
yeah.
You know, I'm not upset that she doesn't listen. So.
All right. Well, good you could get that out there. I mean, I know what you say behind the scenes, and it's quite a bit different. But
I hope she listens though, because the whole segment is dedicated to her questions.
That's true. All right. Let's skip around a little bit. Let's leave the questions. I want to go through season and summation coverage that I looked
Yeah,
back
I am
on.
interested to hear this.
Okay. All right. So I went through and listened to all of them. I mostly wanted to find out who we had for season MVPs because we were talking about that. Last episode, we're like, oh, I can't remember. The funny thing is we were wrong. We've been kind of wrong. Like, every season we'll be like, well, I definitely haven't had this person as MVP before. And it'll be like the person we had for MVP the previous season, which is funny. All right, so season 1, no MVP.
We didn't do that yet.
It was a standalone episode where we recounted our origin story, which is funny because we were only 25 episodes in and we were already talking about how the podcast started.
We knew.
And you said masturbation was a selfish act. So that was the highlights of the season 1 season in summation.
Still agree.
Season 2, no MVP. We said Joe Morton was better than Marie, though.
Why? What were we doing the first 2 seasons of this podcast?
I don't know. But we both agreed. Yeah.
All right.
Season 3, we had an MVP, and I did LVPs. Actually, we both did LVPs. So LVP, you said Heidi was the LVP, and I said Mark was the LVP. MVP, you said Wilson, and I said Jill for season 3.
Okay.
Season 4, you said Wilson again, and this was where you said, well, I definitely have, I want to reward Wilson for MVP. And
Did I reward him 3 times?
Maybe. And I said Tim for season 4 MVP.
Okay.
Season 5, we both said Randy. So
Great.
Season 6, you said Jill. I said Brad. Season 7, I said Randy. You said Brad. Season 8, I said Wilson. You said Jill. So we had some repeats. Tim only won the MVP once. You never gave him an MVP.
I think the first 2 seasons he would have gotten it.
Probably, yeah. A couple duplicates there, but no MVPs for Karn, Mark. That's about it.
I would be apt to give an MVP to Karn had they built anything around him.
Man, I know. That was a big surprise, yeah. So that was kind of interesting, yeah.
That is interesting. It's interesting to hear the first couple. I don't know that I'll ever go back and listen to us, but I don't know. We were different human beings, probably. Do you want to jump back into questions then, or
sure?
Yeah. Okay. So let's finish this list that we're going through here. Next question, I think this is going to be interesting. I think this is one of the more interesting questions that you have here. If you could change one thing that happened on the show, what would it be, or why? A pivot, perhaps? Question mark.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This was actually really tough. I really struggled with this. We've mentioned a couple of things before. One is just like a pivot to more Al, honestly. Thought it happened and never did. And I just wrote, I wrote this a couple times throughout this document, was like, Randy leaving the show really sucked.
Mm-hmm. That's the first thing, yeah.
It really took something, maybe, I mean, it's not as big as when Michael Scott leaves The Office, but it's related. It's very similar, so.
Yep.
What do you have for this?
I have a couple. I said the obvious choice would be keeping JTT on. Eileen and Al making it work in terms of their wedding or her coming back. I don't know. I just felt like once she left, I don't know that they were able to really do as much with Karnman and like the Trudy thing just didn't really land. So like I don't know. I'm not saying they needed to get married in that episode where they kind of it fell apart at the altar, but like maybe she could have came back and they could have made it work again. But like I don't know. I just felt like that was sort of a swinging door moment for Karn, and they didn't really ever do anything interesting with the character again.
You know, I wrote something else before you get to your next one that kind of is related to that. I wrote that Jill just getting done with her school earlier and kind of opening her up to new possibilities.
Same.
Would have been...
That's in my list as well. Just finishing school and like getting into a career, because we could have had some plot lines around that. You know. Okay. So, and then this came up earlier, but just like doing something with Mark and sticking to it. I think like I don't know. I know the acting chops probably aren't there, but like it would have been better if they could have just been like, Mark's really into cooking, and he's going to be into cooking as a character throughout the rest of the show, and we can have episodes and plot lines that build around that.
He's in like a chili cook-off.
Yeah, right, whatever. But like, they just like would keep changing it, and honestly, like if they could have just stuck to that, I think it would have been a better show. But the biggest one for me is obviously JTT, and then I do think the Al character just getting married to Eileen versus whatever happened after the fact would be a secondary one for me. So.
Yeah, you get like Al becoming a father and stuff.
Kids, something, yeah.
And Tim becomes maybe more of a mentor to him or something. I don't know. All right, that's a good question though.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
I'm thinking I'm back.
All right. Do you want to talk about what you will miss most about doing this podcast?
Sure. I said staying in touch with you, Jordan, because I think we'll continue to stay in touch, but, you know, this has been basically carve out an hour on your calendar every week to talk to your friend, and I don't know if that's realistic moving forward, but hopefully we can stay in touch.
And text throughout the week as well, so it's multiple touch points. Yeah, that's a big one for me. Do you have another one before?
Yeah, I have quite a few.
Okay.
The ritual/routine of recording. I don't know, just like anytime you do something every week for 4 years, I think, and you enjoy doing that thing, and most of the time I have enjoyed doing this podcast. I mean, there's been times where it's been just like, I would rather not talk about home improvement today, but 95% of the time I'm usually excited, ready to go, and it's a good time. So that just kind of routine is going to be, it'll be kind of weird having that disappear. The creative outlet, you know, it's not like writing or drawing or whatever, but like, I don't know, you got to be sharp on here. Quips, one-liners, coming up with alternative titles, just generally being able to sort of speak somewhat eloquently on a podcast is a creative outlet in and of itself. People asking me about the podcast but not really caring, I'm definitely going to miss that. People being like, you still doing that? Cool. And then talking about it during job interviews, I'm definitely going to miss.
Oh, man. There was like a good month or two when you would have all those stories about interviews, and it was just fantastic every time. So, yeah, I'm going to miss just hearing about that. I mean, I echo a lot of the sentiments. Like, it's, you know, to every single week, especially when you live, and I'll say this for me, like, I'm very much an introverted person. I don't have a lot of, like, close friends. And so to live 1,000 miles away from one of your closest friends and not really be able to see them, but I get to talk to you every week for an hour. We get to text throughout the week. We get to enjoy each other's company, laugh, all that kind of stuff. Like that's, you know, that's obviously incredibly important to me. I agree with like the creative outlet and stuff. You know, I write a little bit on the side like you, the podcast, making a show, running the show, doing the format of the show has been interesting to learn. Like I know I've actually learned skills through this. And aside from like the actual show, the technical stuff as far as websites, audio editing was a big skill that I never had before. So that's been good in like a lifelong learning sense for me.
Right. Yep.
It's, you know, for most, at least for the last couple of years, most of our podcasts have been recorded on Fridays. So it's always been something to look forward to at the end of the week, get to talk, get through, you know, the work week and then talk about this. So just lots. I mean, I was in stitches a lot of times. I laughed a lot. It's obviously great for your mood. to be able to do that kind of stuff. So it's been a medicine of sorts for me. It's been good to talk with people online and just hearing stories. I mean, we have one today that we'll probably share where people are genuinely impacted by the show is, I think, humbling. Like, we're doing this just kind of as a fun thing, but to hear that, people struggled with anxiety or whatever, and this was just something that they really helped them, or they did, or got them through 2,000 miles a month of driving and stuff. Like, that's really incredible, and that's something that I would have expected from our silly little podcast, and so that's good, to be able to help people in that way. And I think maybe the final thing that I'll miss is just there's a lot of times where we've agreed on stuff about the episode, a majority of time, but every once in a while, just like the finale, we just see something completely differently,
right?
And we disagree, and that's always been those make for some of the best conversations. So
for sure.
I'll miss those moments as well. But
well, Jordan, I'll disagree with you whenever you want. Just give me a call.
Yeah, you're always looking to disagree. So yeah, it'll definitely be sorely missed.
Yeah, I agree. Probably not right away, though. Probably be nice for a couple weeks.
Yeah, it'll be one of those things where, like, I needed a vacation.
Right, yeah.
And then maybe January 1st rolls around, and you're like, okay.
You're like, all right, so, like, last man standing, I guess? I mean, I said I wouldn't, but...
I'm dying over here.
All right, this is sort of a long question. What becomes of the secondary members? Marty,
This was
Benny,
the hardest question you asked.
Jeff, Heidi, Klaus. I don't go in for that sort of thing, guy. Let's go back and forth. I didn't spend very much time on these, but I am satisfied with my answers looking back. All right, so for Marty, I said Marty marries and divorces 2 or 3 more times and jumps from meaningless job to job.
Wow. And I think probably part of this will be colored by the way that we think the series ended.
Right, that's true, yeah.
But I actually said kind of the opposite for Marty. I thought that he was going to hold down the fort at Harry's Hardware. Now that he's kind of working there as a steady gig, he kind of gets he's in a new apartment now, and so meeting new people and maybe becoming a better father. We'll see.
Okay. Right.
But I'm maybe a more optimistic person for Marty. Maybe yours is more realistic.
Well, I know Bill O'Leary's I went to Africa, so...
So glad
Benny,
you got to mention that.
Yeah. I said Benny chokes on a ham and dies.
I think between these, we're going to see that you're maybe more of a pessimist and I'm more of an optimist.
I wouldn't have thought so, but maybe.
So my Benny is he becomes a judge for a TV show like Chopped. I don't know how it happens, but that's an episode.
All right, so in your basket you have arugula, a piece of cheddar cheese.
He's mostly
sourdough.
A judge. He's not doing all that stuff.
And a donut.
He's just like describing the scents and hints of flavor.
I thought you were gonna say he'd be like a Judge Joe Brown type. Judge Benny.
That's Klaus.
Your Honor. All right, Jeff marries Carrie, and they have 8 kids.
Whoa!
That's pretty optimistic, right?
Wow, getting a late start to the game there.
Better late than never.
I thought that Jeff maybe became a tycoon. Like he starts experiencing the success. He's doing well at Harry's. He starts becoming a serial entrepreneur. He puts his hands in too many pots, and then it all comes crumbling down.
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
Kind of like Wolf of Wall Street kind of thing with Jeff.
The hairless wonder.
I said Heidi divorces her husband and starts her own tool show. It gets canceled, but at least she tried.
I see. This is where it's like I think they stayed, so I think Heidi just kind of continues what she's doing. I thought maybe she took a couple of years off, when her second child is born, because remember she's pregnant.
Right. Oh, I forgot about that.
But eventually she gets the itch to come back. So
yeah. Okay. All right. Klaus. I said Klaus drops an album titled Klaus K.
I don't have anything for Klaus. He continues to operate the sound stuff. I don't know. Okay. Like, drops an album. Maybe Klaus starts a podcast about audio engineering. He's like one of those podcasters that does podcasts about podcasts.
All right. Well, he can do a home podcast. I don't go in for that sort of thing, guy. Moves to Phoenix, goes to a club, meets a woman, and eventually does go for that sort of thing.
Oh, that is what we call the circle of life.
That's right, yeah.
I wrote that apparently Wandell does not make it through this transition because Tim and him continue to butt heads, and they promote the I don't go for that sort of thing guy because he's been around, he's done lots of jobs, he's kind of...
I mean, jack of all trades.
Yeah, and so they put him in the new Binford VP role, and he nails it.
Nice. All right, cool. Next question. That was fun.
It was weird.
That was fun. I had a good time. Who's your favorite and least favorite cast member? I'll start with least favorite.
So when you say, are these main cast members?
Mine, well, for least it wasn't.
Okay.
But for favorite it was. I mean, I don't know. Do with it what you will.
Okay. I said my most favorite was JTT.
Okay.
Kind of always liked his performance. I thought he was always kind of funny and, short guy like me. So, I can identify with him there. I also ended up in a lot of lockers. No.
Self-perpetuated locker myth.
No, I kind of always liked his performance, and I thought he was kind of the funniest of the kids, and I always am partial to the kids. So yeah, that's why I was so sad to see him go.
I know. For favorite, I said Wilson or Brad. I couldn't really decide. I don't know. I felt like as the show ended, all of a sudden I was like, man, I really like Wilson, and I think I took the whole thing for granted. And he's just like consistently been one of the best parts of the show for 8 years. And Brad, I don't know. That was like one of the big surprises for me. Was I just really liked the Brad character. He was a little stinker, and then he grew up, and he was just a funny kind of comic relief. And he really steadied the ship when JTT left. So I said either one of those. Least favorite, Jordan.
Least favorite. Main character is Mark. At least when he was little, he was cute. As he grows up, they don't make him interesting. He maybe struggles a little bit more with acting than the rest of the cast. It's just tough all the way around, Mark. All the way around.
It's no mystery why he didn't keep working after this. The answer is Mark. I don't blame him necessarily. I think they didn't give him a lot to work with, but maybe they didn't give him a lot to work with because he wasn't great. Other characters that I didn't like, Antonio the waiter. I mean, I really did not like that.
He's awful.
And that happened so many times, so it's almost a tie for me. I also didn't like Tim's mom.
Huh.
I just never liked, I don't know if it's the actor. I didn't like her in Boy Meets World either. Just didn't like Tim's mom. Too sarcastic, too sour. Not for me.
Okay. I wrote the bully from the arcade as a side guy I didn't like. I just don't like bullies.
Bad. Yeah, you don't like bullies. Despite the fact that you kind of have bullied me for 4 years.
Everyone can listen to the podcast and see how that's not true. Second person, Marty.
Yeah, I know.
Just think about the first time we met him. He's just like a coward hiding outside of our Stinkies or whatever that place was called. I forget now.
Big Mike's.
Big Mike's. That used to be such a big place that they would go and then kind of stopped.
I know. I liked that. They should have kept going.
There should have been an episode where Brad tries to get, tries to start get his dad to buy him an alcoholic drink or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, Marty, tough break. They write that character as unlikable. So
I know, it's weird. I don't know why they made him so much more unlikable than they needed to.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily
so much more pathetic.
I don't think that William O'Leary was a bad actor for it necessarily. I don't think he was the greatest, but I don't think he was bad by any means.
No.
And but they just wrote him as just an idiot, terrible human being type of thing.
Yeah.
So
I agree. Any more?
That's all I got.
All right. Last question. Do you think Home Improvement evolved or devolved as time went on? I'll go first. I said evolved. It definitely became like more silly, and the episodes became a little bit more convoluted or complex. But the show kind of aged as the characters did, and it had them facing things that seemed natural given the sort of age and surroundings of the characters. I don't think there's really any bad seasons. A lot of people will say the last season's bad. I don't know. I found enough good there to enjoy it, even without JTT. Different characters kind of shine at different seasons, like different people. We did season MVP, and I think every year it was sort of a different sort of choice you could make based on the episodes and performances and stuff. It always had heart. Always was a show about family and kind of what it meant to be a family in the Midwest. And I don't think it ever lost its spirit, even if the show kind of maybe changed tonally over time. So I'll say it evolved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's mostly right. The way I would maybe say is like it was sometimes 2 steps forward and 1 step back type of thing, where like all of a sudden Tim would become like a jerk again or not understand his wife or stuff like that. So that was kind of disappointing because I thought we already did this. Maybe he makes more rash decisions than you would expect. But yeah, I think for the most part, yeah, what you said is very true. Like it still felt like Home Improvement throughout all the seasons. There are episodes here and there where it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
But for the most part,
I always just chalk that up to the fact that there are just too many episodes and they just kind of ran out of ideas, or sometimes they just like, I don't know, just really swung and missed. But
yeah, maybe you cut it down to like 15 episodes per season or something.
I mean, it would be a much better show. I mean, what show wouldn't? But
you have a tight show there. So yeah, no, I think it did evolve. So
that's all I got. Jordan, any additional questions?
I mean, ad hoc. Can you think of like best episodes for each character?
It's hard. Mark would be very hard.
I was thinking Mark's best episodes are like Pilot when he's young, or Wild Kingdom, or the karate episode, maybe.
Is that Karate or Not Here I Come?
Yeah.
Or is that the Karate Kid Returns?
Oof, both. I mean, those are Mark in a nutshell. Why wasn't he just in karate his whole life? I don't know.
He just like, all right. I think the pilot's good. He's also like the kid. He's like the star kid of the pilot.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so he gets the most play. JTT, Longest Day, I guess.
Yeah, and maybe like Losing My Religion as well. They're both kind of mirrors of each other as far as like emotional range. Mm-hmm. So, but there's a lot of like, the Peter Pan episodes and stuff when he's little that are memorable as well.
What's the ZTB one?
When he throws a brick through a window.
It's hard.
When he's making out with that Monica Lewinsky girl.
I mean, that's good. Yeah, it would have to be a little bit older. Yeah.
He plays angsty teen pretty well.
Yeah, the weed one maybe would be a good one. Yeah, I feel like that's harder to pin down. I don't know that I can think of an exact episode. I mean, I think it's probably around the Halloween party when he's like making out with that girl and stuff, and he's like, he's not quite the brat that he was when he was younger, but he's not quite as mature and solid as he would be. So I mean, also like Hey Yo Brad, that's a pretty good episode.
That's a great episode.
Let's go Hey Yo Brad. I like that one.
The Right Stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, if we talk too much about these, we're probably going to get into our top 5, bottom 5 eps. But
I haven't yet.
Okay.
But Jill, what do you think? Hysterectomy?
Yeah, I love Labor's Lost.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's not that fun.
That is interesting. Some of those...
Yeah.
She doesn't really get a lot of those, does she?
No. I'm trying to think. I mean, you could also probably say either one of the Wopat episodes, because it's like...
Yeah, that's good.
A little bit sexy, a little bit funny, like, I don't know. I would say any one of those. What about Karn? I felt like a lot of the standalone Karn episodes were kind of bad.
I liked Roomy for Improvement.
Okay, remind me what happened. In that one.
I think something happens at Tim's. Maybe somebody gets chickenpox or something. He has to go to a room with Karn at their apartment, and Karn's just like super excited to have him there and whatnot.
That's pretty good. Also, I like Bachelor of the Year, where like he's named like Bachelor, and he gets like a big head. That one's kind of funny. Yeah. I don't know. Either one of those is fine.
There's a couple of like moments for him. We haven't talked about like best moments yet.
Yeah.
That maybe it's not like an episode, but they're moments in the episode.
Right. Wilson. I mean, with Wilson, it's really hard because the Wilson episodes are actually not that good. but he has like a good moment in a lot of episodes. So like I don't know, you could say
The one with Judith.
yeah, but like I don't know. I would rather just like pull a really good like 2 minutes with him and Tim at the fence than that one because like
Right.
that episode's not that good. He also, I mean, the pilot is also good for him, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one for me. And Tim, I mean, I don't even know.
Now
Like,
we're running into like the top 5 because
Yeah.
like it's mostly centered around him, right? So.
Yeah, so we can just kind of skip that. I mean, Antonio, what's his best episode? The last one he's in.
Yeah, when he's gone.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. Hey, what about Heidi? What's Heidi's best episode?
Where she makes out with Karn, man.
The one where she like has her boobs twitch.
Where she delivers a baby in a gas station.
Lacks a certain dignity. All right. What's next, Jordan?
Let's talk about our top 5 and bottom 5 episodes. I think we're there.
All right. Okay, I have some other things. Did you want to end on
you
these?
have other
or-
things?
Yeah.
Where are we at?
I have a couple more tweets to read and a question and some polls to go through.
Okay. Let's do let's do tweets and polls and
All right.
stuff.
Okay, so last tweet, it's a multi-parter from Seth Saginaw Cheese, who's been a long-time supporter of us, and it does end in a question. So, Seth said, I've really enjoyed you guys over the last 4 years. I've always made it a point to never listen to an episode if I'm doing something I don't enjoy. I really love the Christmas movie episodes. Well, anything can happen, Seth. I can recall insignificant seeming moments fondly because there was a great episode of The Pod. Playing while cutting grass, flying, driving, or whatever I was doing at the time that I needed to add some positive vibes to. I've always held Home Improvement almost as a comfort tool since I was a kid. 6 p.m. syndication on TBS every weeknight was always something I looked forward to. He goes on to mention just that he liked it sort of as a nostalgia trip and so on, but I'm going to skip to the question. So, for the mailbag, 2. Is it possible Tim isn't actually dumb or a bad handyman per se, but just overly ambitious and thus pushes projects too far for the given material?
I think that is true. I don't think he's dumb. I don't know that the show necessarily posits him as dumb as much as like accident prone. I just there's too many times where he like knows enough about what's happening or has some knowledge about what's going on or maybe can pull something off. So yeah, I wouldn't paint him as dumb as much as just like overambitious. Maybe is a good way to put it.
Yeah, overambitious / like just doesn't quite know when to let up, always trying to make something, have more power and so on. So, yeah, ambition's a good way to put it. I agree, Seth. Second one, any chance K&B Boys ever played as a live band at the Kiwanis Club on a hot Detroit night?
100%.
Could they play, like, do you think that they would have done live shows playing their, like, Tool musical instruments? Is that a draw, outside of, like, Tool time?
I think so. I think well, first of all,
they could play Madden's and Davison.
yeah, there's some restaurants that are like just, bars and restaurants that are kind of hurting for talent, and I think they could probably pull it off. So, and there's a novelty to that, right?
Yeah, I could see them, playing I don't know, Saginaw's got a lot of restaurants, and, probably not a lot of people going to them, so you book the K&B Boys for a Friday night, yeah, you're sitting pretty. Yeah, I think so. All right, that's all from Seth. All right, polls.
Adam, before you get into your next poll, I did want to share. We don't get quite the action on Facebook, but Lyle Perez on our last episode gave us a nice GIF of Dwight doing the salute as a farewell. So
Okay, I appreciate that.
So that was a nice thing for Lyle to send. So
Thanks, Lyle. That was nice of you. I mean, it is the bare minimum, but it's still something.
So what's your poll? What's your next poll?
Final 2 polls here. The poll master is he's gonna retire.
Putting up his shoes, putting up his kicks.
Man, one thing, we mentioned things we're gonna miss about the podcast. I'll tell you one thing I'm not gonna miss, and that's Twitter. I am so excited to get off Twitter, and I know I could have spent less time on it over the last 4 years, but it was kind of our bread and butter in many ways. So I do look forward to semi-retiring.
You
from Twitter.
built 1,100 followers out of nothing.
It's a lot, yeah.
That Twitter feed has no business having over 1,000 followers.
I appreciate that, Jordan. All right, poll. Wait! At the end of Home Improvement, do the Taylors actually go to Indiana, or is it Tim just imagining moving the house? Rewatch the scene for context. 65 total
our big
votes.
point of contention in the last episode.
Well, Jordan, 56.9% said Tim imagines it. 43.1% said they go to Indiana. So our listeners side with you.
You got some egg on your face, don't you?
I mean, I guess, yeah. I don't know.
It is crazy that, like, that's how I remembered them moving to Indiana, but they don't. Is this a Berenstain Bears versus Bearstain Bears type of conversation?
I think people would have to care more about Home Improvement for it to be, but it's just bizarre that you just don't want that kind of ambiguity around your finale. But here we are, with about half of people not knowing what to think one way or the other, but slightly more sided with you. So, yeah, I feel like a real horse's ass, I guess.
Well, it's just like the quiz. I just slightly won, and
bring up that quiz. You got some nerve. All right, other poll. Did you enjoy the series finale of Home Improvement? What do you think people said, Jordan?
I mean, people are not going to say no to that, are they?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like people were pretty down on the final season, but
I know, but it's one of those things where it's like it's the end of the show, so you're on board.
You are correct. 80.9% said yes. 19.1% said no. If you had to fall in one camp or the other, would you say yes or no? It's kind of hard.
I like it better that they didn't move, actually. So yeah, I would say yes.
I would say I don't know. I don't really think I like the finale a ton, but that's it for polls. So go ahead and give me my 4-year retirement poll watch, and I'll wear it. And yeah, that's
you
it.
earned a pension, a poll pension.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Something our generation will know nothing about. But you've put in a lot of work on polls. Some seemed random and arbitrary, but they always got a lot of votes.
Yeah, not always. First couple years, I used to only get like 6 or 8 votes. The 50 and 60s, that's been the last couple of years, and that's just because the poll master. So that's just what
I
you call
wonder
me.
what the most popular poll of all time was.
Oh, I mean, there was a couple that like the at Home Improvement Twitter like retweeted that got over 100, but I couldn't tell you what they are. Probably like
should they do a reboot?
Yeah, right. Yeah, for real. Or like, yeah, I remember one popular one was like, do you think Home Improvement should have gone on after the final season? And like the answer is kind of clearly no, it shouldn't have. Like I don't know if you watched the end, but everybody was like 95%. Yeah, of course it should have. More Home Improvement forever. It's like all right.
Beat that dead horse.
Yeah, seriously. But that's it for Twitter.
All right, final Twitter shots. All right, so we finally have arrived at the last segment of the show. So we've got top 5 episodes, bottom 5 episodes, and just general memorable scenes. I think let's start with the bottom 5 episodes.
Let's do it.
All right, I'll go first. My least favorite, or this is the 5th least favorite episode. He ain't heavy, he's just irresponsible. We've mentioned this a couple times, but this is where this is our first taste of Marty, and boy, is it a sour one. He wants to abandon his wife. He's just kind of annoying, and it's just not a good episode. It's an unfortunate entry into the series for him, and unfortunately, it kind of continues throughout the series. So
imagine wanting to leave Nancy. Guy's freaking crazy.
He is crazy.
That was one of my honorable mentions. My number 5. And it could have been any number of episodes like it, but I went with Thanks But No Thanks. It's a Marty and the twins are living at the Taylor house episode, and there were a couple of those. The other one was... I can't remember what the other one was, but it's just
Ploys for Tots.
Yeah, Ploys for Tots. It's just like Marty not wanting to accept the advice of the Taylors in terms of raising the daughters, and the daughters are throwing fits, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I just hated the twins showing up on the show was one of my least favorite things they did. It just felt like such a last gasp for air, of a show. And yeah, like I said, it could have been any number of those, but I chose that one because I just hated those episodes.
And rightfully so.
Yeah.
My next one, number 4, is You're Driving Me Crazy, You're Driving Me Nuts. And this is when they are just driving around the car the whole episode, and they get lost, and Tim refuses to ask for directions. They end up at the same gas station a couple times with some eccentric characters, and it's a very boring non-episode.
Man,
so.
I straight up barely remember that one. That's funny.
Yeah, it's not good.
I better run through my honorable mentions here. Blow Up. That's the episode where Tim blows up a picture of Jill's face, but it's a bad photo and she gets embarrassed. Kind of stupid. I said he ain't having, he's just irresponsible. The Wood, the Bad, and the Hungry.
Oh.
Benny stealing from a soup kitchen because he's lazy, and they do that claymation stuff. Not for me. Whitewater. Kyle's hearing voices in his head. I don't know. That one just really lacked a certain dignity. And The Sun Also Mooches. Yeah, it's a bad title.
It's a murderer's row of honorable mentions.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So let me go ahead and skip to my number 4. This is one we covered pretty recently, and it's called Dead Weight. I think it's the penultimate episode, maybe. Or no, it's right before the finale, the 3-part finale. Yeah. I just didn't, this is just an episode where they beat a dead horse, and as it relates to, like, weight jokes, Al's mom is fat kind of jokes. They had to tie up a lot of different plot lines in this one. It sort of just felt so forced, and characters would walk into scenes and have conversations for the plot that just really seemed very unnatural to me. I didn't like seeing Antonio, and when she falls off and there's that earthquake, it was really just hashtag not my home improvement. I feel like I've said this like 4 times because I've had to talk about Dead Weight so much lately, but I really, really disliked that episode. So.
Yeah. I guess I remember not being like
you loved
best.
all those weight jokes. You just thought they were so funny.
They were hilarious. I hate fat people. No, yeah, I don't know. It was certainly not good. I didn't have an honorable mentions. It might have snuck into that, but my number 3 is The Niece, an episode centered around one of our least favorite characters, Willow.
I'm surprised that our list is very different so far. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked about how, like, it'd be nice to develop some of these characters, but Willow was not one of them, and
yeah,
so,
they backed the wrong horse on that one.
Yeah, maybe the title is not. I'm not thinking is The Niece. It's the one where they're it's desperately seeking Willow. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
The Niece is where they introduce Willow.
I was like, that episode's not that bad. I mean,
no, desperately seeking Willow, where she's like out clubbing and she has no consideration for the Taylors, and
it's a lot like the Twins, where it's like, okay, like what is this? Like, why is this an episode of Home Improvement?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's number 3 for me.
Desperately seeking Willow. You don't like that bouncer? That guy's funny.
I mean, it's not to say there aren't some good things, but overall, it's paltry.
Totally Tool Time is my 3rd one. This is where those Swedes want to buy the show. You got Drew Carey coming in as like a exterminator guy. Tim and Al, just a lot of mix-ups, mishaps. It's just real stupid. The Swedish stuff is bad. At the end, everything kind of is wrapped up very naturally to tie a bow on it. I don't have a lot of memories of this episode, but I knew looking at it that I really, really hated it, and for that reason, it's my number 3.
All right, it's not a bad entry on the list. Number 2 for me. Maybe we'll have the same top 2.
Wouldn't shock me.
Speaking of shocking, Future Shock, number 2.
Ding, ding, ding. This is also my number 2. We've hated this episode for quite a while.
Yeah, so I don't even really remember why they're doing this, but there's an episode where they become old people, and
because Tim is so stuck in his routine that he's going to become old. I don't know. It was very.
The more I remember, the more I hate it.
I think somebody wanted to play with old age makeup is kind of what happened, but
yeah, they got excited about that. It's just like a dumb episode, and they're crotchety, and it's like, what are we doing?
The acting is kind of bad.
Yep. My grandpa voice is far superior than their old people voice. So.
You would have excelled in that episode. I really missed opportunity for you. I remember you did try to get cast in that, but
as an old 6-year-old.
Sounds cool. I don't know. That was my number 2. Jordan, let's say our number 1 at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
Home Alone.
And I ain't talking about Macaulay Culkin.
No way.
Yeah, we watched this one pretty recently, within the last year or so, and we all kind of knew then it was bad. And I think even like among Home Improvement fans, this is like kind of the universal, like, that's the worst episode. Why is it bad? Well, it's just Tim, and it's all monologue, and it's all stream of consciousness, and it doesn't really build on anything. It doesn't make any sense. It's a lot of noises, a lot of grunting. There is no story. You get that weird dream with Oprah and Jay Leno. Hey, you guys hear about the Home Podcast finale? And I don't know. It was kind of like grating and just annoying to watch. And it's Tim at his absolute worst. So
yeah, a lot of like him doing stupid grunts on a keyboard and stuff, and it's like
when he's just like hitting the bad.
Yeah, it's a bad episode. I don't really
the
know
worst, Jordan. It's 1 out of 205.
I mean, and we agree, so it's that bad. In the categories, from the sounds of it.
Yeah, it's good she can come in here for the last couple of seconds.
We're getting all of our hallmarks.
I think she just wanted to say goodbye.
Printing noises and cats aplenty. And you could probably hear my daughter yelling in the background, too.
I could, yeah. The more things change, the more they stay the same. All right, top 5, and we're winding it down here, Jordan. This is it.
Yeah, we're in the last 15 minutes of Home and Podcast history here.
Wow. Yeah.
All right.
Get out your
I have
tissues.
2 tied for top 5.
I have honorable mentions, so let me run through those first. 'Twas the Flight Before Christmas, season 5. They're at the airport with Tom Poston. I Was a Teenage Tailor, season 6 Halloween episode with Clifford Warren. Season 5, Eye on Tim.
I'm so glad I made your list.
Why I like that one. Long and Winding Road, Part 2, the best clip episode of all time. And The Quest for Fire, I put that one in there just because that's the one they filmed when I was up at that hotel in Traverse City.
Sentimental spot for that one.
Sentimental. It's not a great episode, but it's not a bad episode either. So those are my honorable mentions. So Jordan, go ahead and start with your number 5.
All right, so tied for 5 on my list. You mentioned one of these already. Long and Winding Road, Part 2, the best clip show of all time, is tied with Wild Kingdom, a first season episode where Mark has his Boy Scout troop, and there's a snake in the wall, and it goes down Tim's shirt.
There's a snake in the wall.
There's a snake in my boot. It's just a very memorable. Even just that scene, I probably will never forget until I'm 85 or something.
It's like your mom's favorite episode.
It is one of my mom's favorite moments. So maybe that passed on in genetics or something. But
probably it passed on in genetics, I think.
That's science, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. Wild Kingdom is one that I remember liking, but I don't remember enough about it to really have it factor in. But I do remember the good snake scene, of course. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Best snake scene since Anaconda. All right. Number 5. This is going to surprise you, and this will surprise longtime listeners because this is me doing kind of a 180.
Oh.
My number 5 episode is the pilot.
Wow. It's on my list. I thought you liked the pilot originally, so I'm surprised by this.
I think I was pretty hard on it. I was pretty hard on it the first time around, I think. At least that's my memory. I certainly wouldn't have thought it was going to be one of my 5 favorite episodes, but I don't know. Honestly, like, as much as recording it a second time and not being able to use the audio was frustrating, it did let me come at it with fresh eyes about midway through our run, which was actually pretty helpful. I think the pilot's really good. It sets up the show in a very effective way. You get all the beats. It's a really good Wilson-Tim scene, the atavistic. Mark and Tim. It's just like, it's super simple, but it outlines everything the show is going to do well over the next 8 years and gives you kind of nice character moments for everybody. I just think it's a really good pilot and a really good episode of Home Improvement.
So it's number 3 for me.
Okay.
And, one scene that I wanted to call out specifically, I agree with everything you said about setting up the show and what it's going to look like and heartfelt moments. But, there's the moments with Tim and Mark as a young boy.
Yeah.
I'll remember, Tim kind of
Flexing.
shocking himself and dancing, and they take off their shirts, and he's got his own tool belt for his kid. So
It doesn't get any better than that for Mark either. As we already said.
yeah, you really start from the top, and he just kind of all downhill from there. So it's a great episode, number 3 on my list, and I'm glad it made yours as well.
All right.
Number 4 for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe a surprise. I didn't, when I first started thinking about top 5 episodes, I didn't expect this to make it, but it did make it for me, and that's Chicago Hope.
What? Really?
Yeah, and it's really for one scene in particular, but
Oh, okay. I know why now. Yeah.
I do remember kind of like Tim splitting between the hotel with Bud and Jill and the romantic getaway. They do that
Yeah.
a couple times where he's trying to mix business with pleasure, which is always a bad idea.
Never a good idea.
Never a good idea, but it works for me here. We get Bud. I do like early episodes of Bud. I think he's a good character, so he brings a welcome presence to this episode. They're in a different scene. It's perhaps the best on-location episode they've ever had. Or not on location, but, doing a different type of thing where they're in a place, and I think it works. They're in this hotel, Japanese hotel. They're doing all that stuff. Tim's trying to balance the two things. But then, of course, the memorable scene at the end with Tim and Jill, and they're doing karaoke, and they're singing "I've Got You, Babe." Put that on an endless loop in my room,
Okay, I will.
Don't twist my arm.
No, your wife must have heard about that news, and that's why she was kind of in a bad mood earlier when she came in. She saw the endless loop.
She's like, I hate this scene.
Podcast is over. Stop.
You promised.
That's a good one, Jordan. Again, that's another episode I don't think enough about, but I will now. Here's a question that is not related to this. How long do you think it's going to be before you tune into another episode of Home Improvement? Like a year? Like 5 years? Or will you never watch another episode again?
I don't think it'll be that long, honestly. I don't watch a lot of shows in general. So, like, finding a time where I'm, like, aimlessly scrolling through antenna channels seems far away. But,
well, eventually your daughter will grow up, and, you'll be less busy with things.
There might be more on the way at some point. But,
Whoa!
not right now, but maybe.
A final announcement? And you're naming the child Al Borland?
That's how this podcast is
first
going
name.
out.
Al Borland.
Miss Albert. But, I don't think it will be that long, honestly. I think even now, towards the end of this run, I was looking back and I would see it on there and I'm like, especially if it's an early episode we haven't covered in a long time, I'd be interested to see it with fresh eyes.
It wouldn't shock me this Christmas if I turn on, like, a Home Improvement Christmas episode.
Yes, I agree.
All right. My number 4, Jordan, this might surprise you. For Whom the Belch Tolls.
Oh, it does not surprise me at all because it's my number 2.
Okay. Well, I just thought maybe you'd be surprised that it wasn't lower on my list.
I guess I am surprised that it's not number 1 for you.
Yeah. I don't have anything new to say about this. I think it's probably my favorite emotional or not super slapstick funny episode of Home Improvement. I think Christopher McDonald is great. I love Tino and Forche. I don't have anything new to say about For Whom the Belch Tolls. It's a really, really good, unheralded episode of Home Improvement, and we've been talking about it for 4 years, so that's all I got.
Yeah, it's got staying power. So, don't have much to add, but just, the emotional scene with Christopher McDonald and Tim in the backyard, where it's pretty obvious that they've kind of grown apart, and it's time to say goodbye. It's an iconic scene that no one talks about, and one of the early surprises in the run that I still think about to this day. Put it on a loop next to Chicago Hope in my room.
Man, how big's your room? Well, I know how big your room is. You got a massive house. All right.
I'm down to only 1 on the list, so you got to keep going.
You're down to only
1?
1? Oh, wow.
I'm down to number 1.
All right. My number 3. 'Twas the Blight Before Christmas.
I thought this might appear.
Here's a funny thing. I didn't rank this number 1 for Christmas episodes a couple of months ago. But for whatever reason,
things change. These are fluid situations.
But and I'll say this now. I tried to limit myself to 1 Christmas, 1 Halloween episode.
I think that's fair.
I thought, like, I don't know. I'm perhaps a little too fond of those episodes, and I was trying to be a bit more objective with my ranking. So this was my Christmas selection. You know, I like it for a couple of reasons. It's an early episode. It's season 3, and it's super, super, like, the ending is kind of sweet and nice, and you get the Noel Leon gag with Mark and the choir. This is, of course, the episode where Brad wants to go skiing with his friends and, like, doesn't understand why he can't, and it's like a real, like, oh man, I guess Brad's not coming to church, and, you know, there's like that moment where it's like, is Brad going to disappoint his mom on Christmas? And then he shows up, and it's all really nice, and the church is a good little set that they went to a couple times, and the Leon Noel gag is probably the best thing Mark ever did. I just love when I love when he shows up there, and it's just like, it's sweet and it's nice, and you got Randy is he's passing along secrets to Doc Johnson's granddaughter because he likes her, so he's always a step ahead of Tim. And I don't know, I like all the Christmas episodes, but this one is just sentimental, sweet, and funny in sort of the perfect way for me. So.
Did not make it on my list, but
you idiot!
Yeah, good moments for that episode. So I'm glad we got to talk about it one last time.
Should I go again?
Yeah, I only got one left.
Okay, my number 2 is Thanksgiving, season 7 with Rodney.
Is it pure Rodney? Is that why?
Well, pure moods, pure Rodney. No, it's a couple things. Thanksgiving, I like a holiday episode. I mentioned earlier the Silverdome, family at the Silverdome, Detroit Lions. Like, it's just getting me in a lot of sweet spots. And then you get Rodney for like half of the episode, and it's really, really funny. And therefore, because Rodney's in it, it's one of the funniest episodes of Home Improvement, in my opinion. So, like, I don't know, it just really scratches me right where I itch. Tim getting up on the Jumbotron down there, mixing it up. I like the crappy footage they show. I love Rodney. Irv Schmaman, pretty solid, a little bit of a creep, but I don't know, I just really like this episode, and I kind of reformatted these rankings a couple times, but for whatever reason, this one, it kept working its way further and further down the list, and next thing you know, it's my number 2.
It started as an honorable mention, then it worked its way up to
started as like 50, and the next thing you know, it's 2. No, I just like this episode a lot, and I was really excited to cover it for a long time, and then we got there, and it just didn't disappoint. So
yeah, it's like they made an episode just for you, Adam.
I felt like it. Yeah, I'd never felt more seen.
So you're down to number 1, right?
I'm down to number 1. You're down to number 1.
Are these going to be the same number 1s?
I don't know. It's hard. Should we say it at the same time?
I guess we oughta.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Crazy for you.
Yes.
The best episode in Home Improvement history is Crazy for You.
I didn't know. I mean, I knew you liked it. All right. Why is this good? Go ahead.
Iconic. Okay, so Halloween episodes are the bread and butter of Home Improvement. It is one of the most memorable things about the show, and this is the cream of the crop. So we've got a genuine mystery throughout the show. Everybody's playing pranks, as they always do on Halloween and Home Improvement. And, it's a little spooky. They get Rose, the spooky little creepy woman who's in love with Tim, obsessed with Tim, really. And it just works on all of those levels. And it's really well written, really well acted. Everybody's involved.
I like it when Tim's at the party and the camera's like really close to his face, and it's almost like avant-garde, sort of like you're just like watching Tim really close up, and I do think it's actually spooky, and it's fantastic. It's got great. I say this a lot, I know, but it really does have great atmosphere. I felt.
You're all about the atmosphere. Always have been.
It's spooky. It's fun. I love a prank war. The costumes are good. And I honestly didn't really know who Rose was going to be. So at the end, when it's Karn, it's a genuine surprise. It's hands down the best Halloween episode. And hey, for these two Home Improvement podcasters, best episode of the show. So lock it up.
Lock it up. All right. Well, that was rewarding, I think.
It was.
It's nice that we did not compare lists. So
we didn't. No.
What a treat that is.
It'd be funny if one of your number 1 was on my bottom 5 list, and we were just so diametrically opposed. We'd be like, well, I actually hated Chicago Hope. I thought it was terrible. So.
Stupidest episode they ever did. All right. Before we kind of wrap things up here, I just wanted to mention some other scenes that, maybe the whole episode wasn't top to bottom that great, but things that I will always remember about Home Improvement. For me, a couple of Al moments here, and this is maybe why we think of Al as having more of an experience or more of an influence on the show than he does when we watched it. Al in the soundproof box will always be one of my favorites, where Tim kind of tricks him and he's kind of singing at the top of his lungs. He thinks he's in a soundproof box. Always makes me laugh.
It's a good one.
Another Al moment is Al is blindfolded. He's smelling different pieces of wood, and Tim puts a stinky sock on there, drops it on Tim's foot. Another just great tool time moment. Great gag there. The arcade scene in The Longest Day with Randy, emotional. We talked a little bit about that being kind of like maybe the best episode for Randy. Just that hug, the hug between Tim and Randy will be etched in my brain.
It gets me.
Mentioned I've Got You, Babe, just a minute ago, in Wild Kingdom as well with the snake. And then this one's just kind of a funny thing that I'll always think about is Brad throwing a brick at a greenhouse in episode 2 of season 2. How early is that in the run?
I wish we could have seen it. It's much like seeing Marty hide outside of Big Mike's. I wish I could have seen Brad throw that.
Do you have any other scenes that maybe come to mind that are worth mentioning for you?
Trying to think of things that we didn't talk about that Up Your Alley. The episode where they all, I love seeing a plan come together, and they really get that bully. That's good, and I like that.
McGurns Eat Garbage.
McGurns Eat Garbage, iconic. Did you hear the McGurns line in Backstage Pass? That was satisfying.
It sure was. It sure was.
Yeah. Other scenes. Yeah, your karaoke, Chicago Hope scene's really good. There is some good stuff. Actually, there's another bowling episode that's pretty good with Jill and Bud, where she has to kind of let up to let Bud win. That's pretty funny. Anything, the K&B performances, really good.
Remember Inagata Davida?
That's a good one. The alien comes down for sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's better than the...
The Get a Job.
Get a job.
Brad at the shopping mall, pretty good. That goth girl. Mark doing karate. Randy as Peter Pan. Yeah, I'm just kind of listing things at this point, but the point is there's a lot of good moments, even in bad episodes or middling episodes. That's what makes Home Improvement so good.
So good indeed. With that, I want to thank all of our so good listeners, and specifically
the ones that give us money.
Well, these are our patron saints of Home and Podcast.
Patreon saints.
Some Patreon, some
PayPal.
Some PayPal. And some maybe fictional people that you maybe slipped in that aren't real people.
Right. Yeah. So forgot about that.
So we would be remiss if we did not mention these people who helped us financially keep the podcast running. Get better equipment, all that kind of stuff, and gave substantial amounts of money in some cases. So sometimes it's $1, sometimes it's hundreds of dollars. I don't know.
Seriously, lunatics.
We named a whole segment after Stacey Castle.
She got a lot of play, yeah.
And I think she earned it. It was time. A nickel for your thoughts as well, Sean Nickel.
Yeah.
But Stacey Castle and Castle's Corner, thank you. Linda Sta, Laura Lyons, my mom, of course.
Right.
Mark Volbeck.
Wow. He kind of died off, but it was good to have him for a while.
It was good to have him for a while. The Thornburg brothers, Brandon and Ryan, friends of the show. You mentioned your girlfriend earlier, Kirsten Grimes. Wonderful person, wonderful supporter of the podcast.
Yeah, eventually that just didn't make sense financially for us, to be honest, but it was nice of her. Yeah.
Matthew Wood.
Okay, thank you.
Tom Bauer. We mentioned Griffin Holloway earlier, Grifster.
Yeah.
Matthew Parlett, a recent addition who it's been a pleasure to talk to. Sarah Robinson Schotten as well. Benjamin Black, Julie Gordon. Thank you.
Benjamin Button? As a baby or as an adult?
Benjamin Black.
Okay.
I hope I didn't miss anyone. Maybe I did. But, even if you didn't contribute financially, we thank you so much because, you're at least half the show. And I know that Adam can say, as he interacted with people through polls and through Twitter, that's been a really fun part. I do remember 2 people wanting to meet up with you as you were traveling one time.
In
That
Salem, Mass. Yeah.
didn't quite make it through, but
Yeah.
it's been fun to meet people and talk to people, and we appreciate you guys listening and supporting us in that way as well.
Yeah, and I don't think either one of us would have dreamed that we would have people willing to give us money to do the show and help us cover costs, nor that would want to meet up with us or just generally sort of follow us on a week-by-week basis. So that was a very pleasant surprise, and I think in many ways kept us going. If it were just an echo chamber and this was just going out and kind of going out to friends and family, my family wouldn't have even listened probably. So that would have been tough, and I don't know that we would have been able to sustain it. So yeah, truly we do thank you all, and also thanks to anybody that ever left iTunes reviews, and you can continue to do so if you haven't.
We ended up getting close to 60 reviews.
Yeah, pretty good. Yep.
Unfathomable, honestly, but. We finally reached the end here, I think.
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Hey, we knew we were gonna blow it out. It was gonna blow up like that great episode of Home Improvement. So.
One of your least favorites.
Well, Jordan, thank you for joining me. Listeners, thank you for listening, and for one final time, I guess I'll say, take care.
Take care, everybody.